Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gacee. Today is Wednesday, January the 14th. How's everybody doing today? We have had some interesting moves in the market today, big drops down. We are certainly in a sell mode at the moment. So we've got some big moves, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. So let's get over here to my charts. There we go. All right. And if you're here, I would love it if you would say hi and drop your name in the chat. Good morning, Anna. So good to see you. Um, and before we even jump into analysis, I want to go over the trade we took yesterday. I did talk with Gavilan. Good morning, Gavilan. And he was able, I think, to manage that trade okay. That put went against us pretty hard, but I did average it and was able to get out with a 10% win later in the day. So I took the original put at 9:27. Was that my time? 11:27 Eastern for $1.90. I averaged at 11:59 Eastern at 38 cents and averaged one more time at 12:09 Eastern at 41 cents and was able to get out at 12:17 at 69 cents. So I won't do all of that math in front of you, but basically that's how I managed that trade yesterday, and we did okay. Gavilan saying took some time, but it did go positive. Great job, Gavilan, there. And as I was saying yesterday, um, I don't always recommend averaging. Sometimes it's just throwing good money after bad. But if you've got good signals and you are fairly confident of your direction, then it's worthwhile sometimes to take that trade. So that's how that works. But did want to update you on that one. So that was eventually a winning trade. Like Gavilan says, it took some time. But yeah, for me, it took about an hour, a little less than an hour to get positive on that trade after a couple of averages. So that was tough. But okay, so let's take a look at what we're getting here today. We have, let me move my VIX here so we can see it better. We have the VIX spiking up to 18. So that's a big spike. And as you know, when we've analyzed the VIX on the daily, it's very volatile, and we were looking at this rising bottom, so we could see the VIX was getting ready to jump. It certainly looked that way. Well, here we are. Remember, the VIX runs inverse to the market, so when the VIX jumps, the market comes down, and here we are, almost a full percent down on the day. That's pretty significant drop. That's a decent sized drop. So that's where we're sitting now. The other thing to bear in mind is that we are heading into OPEX, which is options expiration. That happens this Friday. That can also create large swings in the market as dealers and big money reposition themselves, getting out of expiring contracts and getting into newer ones. So that can also cause swings in the markets. We also have what's called VIXpiration happening next Wednesday. And that is where the VIX expires. And once again, that can create volatility. We did have data today. We had the PPI, which was the Producer Price Index. And basically, if we take a look at what we got, remember the Consumer Price Index is the CPI, and that happened yesterday. And the PPI is the Producer Price Index. That happened today. So on that, both of those measurements are measurements that the Fed uses to gauge inflation. And as they gauge inflation, they make decisions based on whether we're going to lower the interest rate, keep it the same, or God forbid, raise it. So we've been in a lowering regime for the last couple of meetings. Most investors kind of feeling like we're not going to make any move in January, but they still cheer any kind of data that shows that we're removing some obstacles to lowering rates. And rising inflation is an obstacle to lowering rates. So They always cheer when the consumer price index comes down and the producer price index comes down, which did happen. So the producer price index came down 0.1%. That was the month over month. And that was, excuse me, that was the core. That takes away food and energy. So the core PPI came down 0.1%. The standard PPI came down like 0.5%. But of course, the old number was revised. Core retail sales is also really important. The market is watching how the consumer is doing. Core retail sales was up to 0.5% from 0.2%. So up 0.3%. That was a positive number. And that was core retail. And I think that strips out like big transportation items. Regular retail sales was up to 0.6 from negative 0.1, and that was also revised. So lots of data, but basically it wasn't bad data. And yet we are seeing the markets respond in a negative way. So we have to kind of keep our eye on what's happening. And I do think some of this is related to OPEX. So options expiration on Friday. All right. So how do we trade this mess? How do we trade this? So we're looking at a pretty significant downward climb or downward descent. We were fairly stable pre-market. Even though we were down, we were kind of stable pre-market. And then at the open, we got a bit of a pop and then pretty much a drop, pop, drop, pop, drop. All morning long, it's just been kind of creating these lower highs and lower lows. So this is a negative selling environment, at least at the moment. Right now, we hit our most recent low at 686.5 on the SPY, which equated to 6889 on the SPX. So just 10 points under, 11 points under our really strong support zone, which is at 6,900. So I'm curious to see, you can see over here, I've got that support line drawn, this red line. I'm curious to see if they try to recover that. It looks like they're trying to right now. So we could consider calls here on a recovery of 6,900, but we're in a very negative selling environment. So we got to be careful because that's going to be counter to the trend. So we do have to be careful there. All right. So right now, kind of floating sideways with a little bit of upward pressure. So what I'm looking for here is if we come back down, if we start moving down here, if the MACD rolls over, we start moving down to the downside. I might trade this to the downside, but we've got a bottom right here. So I'd be careful of that because we may not break that bottom. It looks to me like they're trying to recover 6,900. So we need to see 6,900 SPX. We need to see what happens there. All right. So the other thing we are watching, of course, is this VIX. So this VIX is, if we zoom out a bit, let me move a bit, we can see that the VIX has been doing exactly opposite of the market. This is what we would expect, popping up, popping down, up, down, right? But we're making higher highs, at least we have. So this is a higher high, higher high, higher high, and higher lows. Higher low, little bit. Looks like we could be making a higher low. Here we have to wait and see. Right now, we're kind of pulling sideways, which is exactly what the market's doing. So we're watching the VIX. We're watching the SPX for that 6,900 level. We're watching the SPY. The other thing I'm looking at for leadership is the Qs. So the NASDAQ or the QQQs. And currently we are just a little bit ahead of them. So we're down, when I say we, I mean the SPY or the SPX, we are down almost 1%, about 0.9% we're down. The Qs are down 1.5%. So they're kind of leading us downward. But right now, again, look at this little push here. We are definitely making a bit of a push here, trying to recover 6,900. If we reject here and push down, we could see another leg down here to a new lower low. All right. So if you're joining me this morning and you just got here, I'm Mel Gacee. I trade live every day. I'm a stockbroker with 20 years experience and I day trade for a living. This is what I do. So I'm going to do some market analysis this morning. This is a really chill place. This is a chill zone. I want everybody to be able to ask whatever their questions are. There are no dumb questions. There are no questions that are too newbie. That is what I like to do, is help traders of all levels, but especially newer traders, get their footing in trading, to get started, to start understanding trading. So I go through a lot of teaching and market analysis at the same time that I'm analyzing for taking trades. And I'll think out loud when I take a trade so you can hear what I am thinking, right? Just like I was kind of talking about how to determine if we're moving up or down. So again, right now, still working on recapturing 6,900. We're sitting right there on the SPX. If we reject here, we will probably move back down and retest this low of day at 68.90 on the SPX, 686.5 on the SPY. So we'll keep an eye on that. The other thing I look for leadership is the Mag 7. So remember, those are the large mega titan tech stocks: Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Tesla, Nvidia, and sometimes we include Broadcom in that because they're a big boy too. So as these guys move, they move the NASDAQ and they move the S&P 500, because the NASDAQ, of course, is the tech index, right? That they hold all the tech stocks, or a lot of them. But the S&P holds 500 stocks. However, those big guys, those 7 or 8 titans, they take up about 40% of the S&P 500. They're weighted. The S&P 500 is weighted. So as we see the mega stocks move, those mega techs, those giants, as we see them move, they will give leadership to the S&P 500. All right, Gavilan saying we hit 691, 69.01. Thank you, Gavilan. We did for a brief second, and we're back down at 68.98. So it's really fighting here, but good eye watching that support zone. It's right in here is where I'm watching, and we're just bumping our heads on it over and over, right? A couple of times here, we bumped our heads on it. If we kind of lose this decisively and the MACD rolls over, we could consider puts. So yeah, so those are the things I look to for leadership. The Mag 7 right now, you can see we don't have anybody leading us green out of that Mag 7 group. Everybody's red. Google is down 1%, Apple's down 1%, Meta's down 1.7, Microsoft 1.7, Amazon down 2%, Tesla down 2.3%, Nvidia down 2.4%. So you can see the whole tech sector is red today. But we are getting this little push here. So back up to 6,900 right here. And that's this little top right here on the SPY. The equivalent on the SPY is that 687.7 zone. Looks like they're trying to push it. All right, 69.01, almost 69.02. There's a push. We like that. Do we want to consider calls here? It's a counter trend trade, so we've got to be careful if we consider calls here. It's a counter trend trade. The VIX has given us a little move down, back down below 18 at 17.6. There's a little push here. $69.03 right now. Definitely giving us a push. All right, I'm going to look at some calls here. I'm looking at 688. I'd like to get a little pullback before we jump in, but it's given us a nice push. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the calls. Okay, we're up just a little bit. All right, we're up 10%. I'm going to get out, punch it, I'm out. Was anyone able to take that trade? That was a really nice quick 10%. You can see how fast price moves on these options on the 0 DTEs. It's a beautiful thing when it's going in your direction. It's a tough thing when it's going against you. That was a nice little run there. Let me know if you guys were able to jump in or not. And you heard my thought process on it. Let's go over that again, just so that it makes sense to everybody. Anna got a 5% profit. Nicely done, Anna. So let's go over this thought process again. And I'm sure you guys you caught it. But basically, I was watching for a recovery of 6,900 on the SPX. So I knew we were traveling upward because I could see it. But I was cautious because it was counter to the trend. Now we're starting to change the trend. It won't officially change until we beat this recent high. Gavilan got 6. Nicely done. Nicely done, you guys. Really glad to help you guys take a couple of wins there today. All right. So we won't officially, I also pay attention to volume. Yes, yes, ma'am. You better believe it. That's important. I do too. So we won't officially be in an uptrend until we kind of beat this high. but we're getting real close, right? Do you see this high right here at 10:40 Eastern? There's a little high. So we're getting real close to that. If we push up through that, that in my mind kind of helps to cement the idea that we're back into an uptrend. We have, so my thought process on it was we're moving up over here. When we were over here, we were moving up, but it was a counter trend trade and you could see the sideways range right here, right? You could just see it not breaking this top. And then, and which was the 6,900, the equivalent, right? That it was this zone right over here at 6,900 on the SPX. So you could see it not breaking this top right here where my cursor is. Then when it gave us that little push up through 6,900, I did wait a couple of points to confirm it because I'm very cautious when we are taking counter trend trades. So I waited a few points for that confirmation over the 6,900 zone, and then I jumped in. And then I jumped out pretty quickly because we're getting to this approach of the VWAP, right? That's this white line right here. As we approach the VWAP, what can happen? Well, we can reject, which could be what's happening here. I'm going to be watching for that. Johnny Tran. All right, Johnny, did you take that trade? I hope you did. Good to see you here. So that was my thought process on that trade. Usually for newer traders, I will say, don't trade calls below the VWAP. Don't trade puts above the VWAP. I think of it as a highway. Think of it as your mile marker, right? So the center line of the VWAP, this one right here, is your center divider on the highway. When we're heading north, when we're north of the center line, we are going into calls. When we're south, we're going into puts. So that's kind of how I see it, right? So I tell newer traders, take only puts below the VWAP when your indicators tell you to, and only take calls above the VWAP when your indicators tell you to. And some of the good indicators are going to be your MACD, your moving averages, and as Anna says, volume also is a good thing to look at. But there are times I will take a counter trend trade when I have good reason to. And this was an example of a good reason to take a counter trend trade. So there you go. That was a quick 10% for me. Pushing up over the VWAP right now. So we are going back into positive territory. And by the way, Bitcoin is on a tear today. I know if you guys have been watching me for any length of time, you know that I'm very bullish in the crypto space, especially on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And while the sky was falling as we took that nosedive on crypto a few weeks ago, everybody's saying it's crashing, it's never coming back. I gritted my teeth and stood firm because I truly and firmly believe that crypto is going to be a very lucrative trade in the future. We're going to hit all-time highs in the crypto space in 2026. And so that's my thought process. Do your own due diligence. Don't trade on what I say. Look at your charts yourself. But the good news is that it has come back with a force. So what Bitcoin needs to do now is come up and retest the 100, 105K zone. And once it punches through that, I think we'll be on our way to a new all-time high, but it could take time. So that's kind of my thought. I am currently in trades on BMNR and also on MSTR. Those trades are doing really well today. So that's my thought on Bitcoin. But let's keep our eyes on this break of the VWAP here. If it breaks, or if we just test it. Nope, looks like it wants to break it. And that is a strong push off of these lows. Very, very strong push off of the lows. All right, could we trade a break of the VWAP to the upside? Yes, we can, but this move has been in play for about an hour. So we hit, I'm sorry, maybe 45 minutes. So we hit this bottom here and we've been upward trending since then. It's a little more challenging to take a trade that's mature, right? This is a mature move. It's been going for quite a while, but we can trade a break of the VWAP. I think I'm going to wait just based on the length of this move. I'm going to give this some time to reverse. What I want to see, if we continue moving up, I want to see a little dip down and then another, like a Nike swoosh. That's what I'm looking for, right? So a little check mark is what I'm looking for. If it comes down and gives us that downward move, we could take the downward trade as well. So I'm going to be watching for that. So if we come down and make this downward move and then reverse, that's when I would take the next call. If we make the downward move and start to drop down through the VWAP and down in a strong way, then I could maybe consider taking puts here. So let's watch, because we're still testing the VWAP here. We haven't truly and decisively conquered it. We're just kind of just hovering here right now. And I'm going to take a look at the volume. So that's another thing I look at to kind of give me a clue as to what's going on. I look at volume. So we've got volume sitting. Highest volume is sitting at the 690 calls. Next highest volume is sitting at the 688 puts. So there's kind of good balance here on both sides. The other thing I look at is gamma. On the gamma charts, we are in negative gamma territory. Even with this strong climb, we are still in negative gamma territory. That's something to be aware of. That means when we're in negative gamma, we can see swings to the downside that move quickly. So we are still there. Put wall sitting at 690 on the SPY. So kind of above us just a little bit. That can act as a resistance. All right, looks like we could be getting a bit of a move down. Let's see how we act here at the VWAP. Right here, we've broken under it. Are we going to reclaim it, or are we going to continue down? Could this be the beginning of our Nike swoosh and we move upward? Yes, it could be. Could this be nothing more than a nice run up with another run down? Yes, it could be. So we can't predict the market. This is something really important to remember. It is completely random. I will say I think it's highly manipulated, but it's completely random. So we can't just predict it. We can't. What we can do is use our tools to the best of our ability to profit from probabilities. Probabilities are where we make the money. So we watch the footprints of big money. I try to kind of follow those footprints to the best of my ability. And the probabilities usually work out in my favor. So we don't know that this isn't going to come all the way back down to the bottom, or we don't know that it's going to continue and move up. But what we can see is we can try to watch these footprints, right? So right now we're making a little move downward through right now. That's a rejection of the VWAP. Unless it turns and pushes back up. Right now we're rejecting the VWAP. That's a negative move. Could we consider puts here? Yes. I'm a little cautious. We are getting a little bit of a bump on the VIX. Right there. All right. Looking a little negative here. Coming right back down to 16, only 4 points away. Are we going to retest? It looks like we are. Looks like we could. We're breaking the 50 moving average right there. That's negative. I'm trying to kind of hold it here. $69.05 on the SPX. Looks like they're trying to hold it here. Let's watch and see. I'm not ready to commit to a put yet. We did get a rollover on the MACD, and that's a good signal. Let's check our leaderboard. What are we doing here? Qs look like they came up a little bit. You mentioned it could be the start of a Nike swoosh. It could be. That's also something I'm still looking for. So this could be the beginning of the check mark. If we push back up through the VWAP, we might go ahead and take another call here. But not yet, because I don't have upward signals yet. So again, when we are in an OPEX week, an options expiration week, we can see moves, pretty violent moves up and down as institutional big money kind of moves these strikes around where they need them to be to get in and out of their orders. All right, so just kind of sitting sideways here at the moment. We're currently negative, but not enough for me to commit to a put trade. Starting to get the MACD to roll up a little bit. And crossing up over this moving average. So this magenta line right here is the hull, Hull, like the hull of a ship, hull moving average. I really like it because it's a very fast average and it follows price closely. So you can get negative signals, false signals, I should say. But it's really nice at kind of telling us when the move is changing. And of course, this is a 1 minute chart. So it's, like I said, false signals, we get them. But it is nice when it turns turquoise like this, it's telling us the move is up. When it turns magenta, it tells us the move is down. So I watch that hole pretty closely along with that MACD. All right, it looks like it wants to continue down here. We're sitting still at 6904 on the SPX. It's right over here. It's this chart right here. And if you just joined, I want to welcome you. This is a great place to trade together. I'm Mel Gacee. This channel is called Trading Together. And what I do here is I take live trades in front of you. I talk through my thought process. I do some teaching and some market analysis. And I love to work with new traders. I welcome traders of all levels, but I especially love training and teaching new traders. So welcome, welcome if you're here. And if you are here, drop your name in the chat. I would love to meet you and get to know you. All right, down just a little bit closer to that 6,900. So we're looking at this 6,900 support level on the SPX. We've pushed up over it, tried to reclaim it, coming back down to it to retest it. If we lose it, we may continue back downward. $69.03. A little bit of negative pressure here. We lost the VWAP and retesting 6,900. If we lose 6,900, we might jump into puts. Sitting at 69.01 right now with a little bit of volume coming in on this bar. So let's see. Sometimes this volume can, sometimes it can give us a reversal. Right now it doesn't look like it's going to. Let's see what we get. All right, a little bit continued move down. And we are not quite oversold yet. So this is the RSI right here. I'm watching it. The RSI, when it comes down below 30, that gives us an oversold reading. When it comes up over 70, that gives us an overbought reading. Right now, we are not oversold yet, but we are getting close. We're at 35. Sitting right on 6,900. Let's watch here and see what we do here with this level. Could be trying to hold. If we lose it, I'm going to jump into these 688 puts. So I'm looking at 688 for today's expiration, January 14th, 0 DTE. Not in them yet because I want to see how we respond to 6,900 right here. Sitting right at 6,900, just coming under it. Just coming under it. $68.99. Now, I don't trade the first dip below because oftentimes that's just a fake out. Sometimes it's real, but sometimes it's not. So I don't trade that first look below. I watch and wait for a little bit to get a confirmation. Just like when we were climbing over it, I did wait. All right, 6898 right now. All right, looks like we're losing it. 6897. VIX is giving us a little climb. Here's a little volume creeping in. What we don't want to do is sell the bottom. We don't want to do that. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red candles. So that's hard. It's hard to jump in on a put here. $68.95. If we could get a green candle, I would like the entry better. Got too many reds in a row. All right, I'm going to jump in real quick, but I'm in to that put, punch it. But I am going to give this a really small win. I'm not going to hold out for a big win. All right, I'm sitting at 4%, 5%. I'm out, punch it. Quick 5% for me. I just don't trust the continued down move. So I needed to give that a really quick win. I don't know if anyone was able to follow that. I know it was fast. Here's a little recovery. Glad we jumped out when we did. Good. All right, looks like it may, we got some volume creeping in here. So let's see if they try to recover here. Sometimes that's what a volume bar means. They'll try to recover a bottom. All right, Johnny didn't buy it this time. That's okay. Gavilan, are we waiting for a green candle? I wanted to, but then I just went ahead and took this quick move on this red candle. Just took a quick 5% there. Sitting at 68.93. Looks like they're trying to recover here. Let's see. It's too early to tell. When we get these kind of bigger candles, sometimes it can be them trying to stop the skid, right? There we go. Looks like we could continue down. Let's see. Still sitting at 68.93. They are trying to hold here. Making a teeny, teeny little bottom right here. VIX is slowed down a little bit on its climb. So our low is about 5 points away. Our low of the day right here. We're about 5 points away from that. So are we going to come back and retest the low? Or are we going to bounce from here? They're trying to hold. $68.92. There's a little push down. Just for a second. Okay. 68.91, very, very slowly kind of pushing down here. And again, we're just 3 points from the bottom. If we retest the bottom and break it, we'll probably go farther. Here's our bottom right here at 686.5 on the SPY. There we go. We just beat it. Okay. There it goes. All right. New low, 686.2. Getting a little increased volume here. All right. I was in a trade, so I'm out of that. I was in a put there. So that was from before I even got on the stream. It went against me a good bit, but I'm out of that now. All right, so here's a little test of new bottom, test of the bottom, broke it, trying to hold it here. I'm going to take a look at our volume and see where we could be going. Right here is where the most volume is sitting on the put side, 687. On the call side, we're still sitting at 690. So 687 to 690 is still kind of our zone here that we're watching. And did you notice, let's go back and look at this climb to the VWAP and the rejection. Look at how this VWAP really does act as a magnet for the price, right? We came into the open, we went up through it and then broke it, retested, came down, didn't quite make it here, retested here just recently and came all the way back down. So the VWAP really is, the idea is that the price reverts to the mean average. And so the VWAP acts as a mean average. And so we will see the price revert to that. Sometimes it doesn't happen in the same day. Sometimes it takes off and goes in a certain direction and never comes back. But most days we see the price come to the VWAP and either reject or go over it, but it almost always tries to bounce that VWAP one way or the other. All right, so Anna has to go, but have a great day. You too, Anna. All right. Here comes a little bounce here off of the new low. So again, when I was really cautious here of this climb, it's because in the big picture, we were still negative, right? So you can see it, lower high, lower high. Here's a higher high, which not higher than this one, but higher than this one, which kind of changed our trajectory. But overall, if you look at now this is the next high. Now you can see it's still in a downward trajectory. They just made the wave a little bit wider, right? So lower high right there. And now we just made a lower low. So let's see what happens here. 68.88 is where we're sitting on the SPX. Are we going to come back and retest 6,900? I don't know. It's looking pretty weak to me. Looking pretty weak. Could we trade another put? We could, but this is pretty extended. This is a pretty extended move here. So we took a couple of really good trades today, guys. I loved having you with me. We're getting close to the end of the stream. Let me talk about my trading plan for the rest of the day. We are going to be looking at levels, right? So 6,900 is an important level. VWAP is an important level. So for me, am I okay trading a call? Yes, but I'm more cautious. Today is definitely more a selling day than a buying day. So if I trade a call, I'm going to be very cautious. If I trade a put, I'm going to want to see a little bit of a move up here and then a move down. So kind of the reverse, the inverse Nike swoosh, right? So up and then down. That's what I'm looking for a put. For a call, I'm looking for, at this point, I'd really need to see it get back up to the VWAP and probably through it. I don't know if I'd be confident enough in a call. Even if we got a reversal here, I'd be really careful here just because of this really strong selling pressure that we just saw right off of the VWAP. So I'm more of a seller today than a buyer, but I'm open to calls. I might wait for a break of the VWAP. Okay, Gavilan, would you analyze AT&T before we leave? Of course I will. Absolutely. Let's look at ticker T. Are you in that, Gavilan? What are you trading on T? Today it's up 1.5 points. Let's look at what it's done so far today. It's given us a move up today, but T is a very negative chart. Very, very negative chart. All right. Calls at 24.5. Okay, good, good, good. When did you get into those, Gavilan? So it's a super negative chart, but we are moving up today, and it's moving up against the market at large. So that's a strong sign. They just paid a dividend. They've got earnings coming up on the 28th of this month. 1/7 is when you got in. When do they expire? So we've been in this downward movement for a couple of weeks. 116. Okay, let's take a look. Right now, the chart is pretty negative, but you've got a nice run up against major market movement. So that's strength. When you see a stock going against what the major markets are doing, that is strength. So that gives added weight to this upward move. Again, you've got earnings coming up on the 28th. They may start, moving around and preparing for earnings. So let's take a look at the flow. The flow is looking pretty positive. Although there is a lot of open interest on the put side as well. If you notice the volume is a little heavier skewed to the call side for today. So these 23.5 is where the volume is today. And you said you're in a 24.5. I don't know how much you paid for it, but it's not in good shape. I hate to say that it's almost worthless. However, if you got a major jump, you could be okay. But right now, that call doesn't look too healthy. It does have some open interest sitting at it. It does have some volume, but it's the delta is pretty low as well. It's sitting on a delta of 6, so it's going to take a pretty big move to get that to turn around. Let's look at 24.5 and see. Yeah, it's got a long ways to go. I don't know if it's going to get there by Friday, Gavilan, I'll be honest. Could it recover some? Yes, I think it could. Oh, you bought at 8 cents? Okay. So you're down about 75% right now. Could it bounce? Yes. To get you to where you need to be, it's going to have to go to even get close to break even. It's got to get to 24, which is right in here-ish. It's got to get right into here. That could happen if you got a nice strong push. But with the delta sitting at 6, it's iffy. I'll say that it's iffy. Um, but with a good push, you might be okay. You might be all right. Hopefully that one won't hurt you too bad. That's like what, $80. So hopefully that one won't hurt too bad. But so it's a negative chart, but with a strong day. You've got a strong positive day on a negative market. That's a good sign. It's a good sign. But you've lost all the moving averages here. AT&T has. They've lost all their moving averages. Nothing is bullish here, unfortunately. So you want to see this price at least get up over the hull and then start pushing up through these averages. So it did give us a little push back here. The third week of December gave us a nice little push here. So that could happen again. And again, as traders start kind of bracing for earnings, you might see people start positioning to the upside. It's possible. But with a delta of 6, it's going to take, I hate to say that, but that's kind of what it is right now. So good luck with that. I hope you get it. In general, it's a negative chart. So in general, it's just negative. But let's see if we can get a push up here, okay? Yeah, appreciate you looking at it. Yeah, no problem, Gavilan. And I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being here. Back again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Thanks, guys, so much. I hope you enjoyed those 2 winners. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye for now.